Oh no. Am I going to be going live by myself? That would be tragic. Oh, you know what? We'll make the best of it. I will talk my shit. Y'all can see the video later. I do have the raffle announcements to make. I almost forgot about it, and I was like, oh my god, wait, there's something I had to do. So, tonight's welcome to Wet Wednesdays. Thank you for joining in, even if you're watching this video after the fact. I'm AJ Badass Jones, your host of hosts. Mr. Holla Out, how are you? I hope you're feeling much better. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. I won't put your business out there. So, this is Wet Wednesdays. Yes, I am the chameleon. Yet again, another hair change, but I know you guys live for it. So, I decided to go black. It has like purple in it, but you can't really see. And I don't want to come too close to the camera because then it just looks strange. But yeah, I'm going to be dark for a little while. We'll see how that goes. But anyhow, this is Wet Wednesdays. Thank you for joining in. Oh, I'm glad that you're feeling much better. That's great. You're on the mend. That's always a good thing to hear because, I don't know, the stuff that's happening right now in the world is just crazy. When I look at, totally going off topic for a minute, but, you know, prayers and, you know, my heart goes out to everyone in Texas that is going through the go-through. Y'all state's crazy. That state in particular is fucking crazy. They're turning off people's power and turning off like people's utilities. I'm just baffled by this. So there's a major snowstorm, a major, you know, weather storm that affects the majority of the state, I think. The majority of the state, if not the entire state. And it's interesting because there was someone who took a picture and showed from the perspective of their home, and then it shows across to like the financial district. All the lights are on in the financial district. The buildings are empty. Nobody's there. But they have all of their power. Meanwhile, you have families and homes that don't have power, that don't have heat. I saw one picture of someone's ceiling fan, fucking icicles hanging from the ceiling fan. In Texas. In Texas. I keep stressing that because I want people to truly understand. I know Texans get it. Texas is a hot fucking state. I went to Texas for 3 months in 2017. In the spring of 2017, I went to Texas for 3 months. And Texas was hot as fuck. I'm talking about heat that stands still, that when you go outside, the heat embraces you. Now, I like heat. I really like heat. But Texas heat is a different breed of heat. Like I said, when you go outside, that Texas heat embraces you. Reggie, you go into the swimming pool, as you're walking out the swimming pool, coming up the 4 steps, you're drying off. Because it's that hot in Texas. So, to know that a state that doesn't typically get snow, ice, or anything else have sub-zero temperatures, people have like literally burst pipes, ceilings falling in, drywall falling out, icicles hanging from their chandeliers, you know, just absolute mayhem in people's lives. I saw one person sleeping in a tent in their living room because of sub-zero temperatures and they didn't have heat, and at least the tent was fashioned in such a way that it will protect them against the weather. Like, just crazy. But when you look across the way to the financial district, buildings that have nobody in them, those buildings all have their lights on, which means that they have power, which means that they have heat. So, yeah, my heart and my prayers go out to everyone that is in Texas that is experiencing hardship. I don't even know what they're going to do. My friends and my loved ones that are out there, I've checked on them to make sure that they're okay. There's only one person that I haven't heard back from as yet. She's an absolute survivor and she's a very strong woman, but I know that, you know, in these moments people break, and these moments are really difficult and really hard. Chocolate Mimi, hi honey, how are you? So those buildings might have generators. You know what? You could be right. But when you look at the numbers of buildings, now granted, every single building could have a generator, but then why do apartment buildings not have generators? You live in an apartment building. You're paying your rent. You're paying your monthly fees. Why does your building not have a generator? You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's intentional. They've stated that they've turned off the power in certain areas because of fire hazards, because of fire concerns, because of whatever bullshit concerns. But the fact is that people are starving. People are freezing. People are freezing. I've read something that said that they're running out of, I don't know if they're running out of food or supplies or whatever the case may be, because like everything is damaged. So, the cost of maintenance, listen, you're going to end up having a whole sideways discussion about that with me. If you listen to me, she's so Miami, what's up, gorgeous? If I pay my rent to live someplace, that someplace in 2021 should have a generator. In 2021, there isn't an apartment complex, apartment building, apartment, the duplex, them, whatever it is, there is no place in 2021 that you're paying rent for to live in that they shouldn't have a generator backup. That don't make no sense. Because then what am I paying? What am I paying for? What am I paying for? There has to be something in the law, in the agreement, in the lease, in the contract that I sign that affords me safe shelter, because that's what I'm paying for. How are you gonna say to me like that? I don't understand. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. I don't know. I guess maybe the expectation is like, but okay, but even still, suppose it's a matter that they've turned off the heat, okay? You still have electricity. They've turned off the heat, they've turned off the electricity. So even if you have a space heater, you can't use your space heater to stay warm because you don't have electricity. You don't have lights to see, which means that if you have food in your fridge, it's cold enough that the food may not rot, but you can't cook anything. So they're expecting people to survive how? People don't necessarily have extra money and extra resources to be going out there to go buy fast food. And then on top of that, fast food restaurants and fast food chains that are in those communities, they're closed too because they're going through the same shit. So what the fuck are people supposed to be eating? Oh my goodness me. A lot of residential places don't have emergency services. They're cheap bastards. Plus, many people don't know how to safely use it. Some folks blow their shit up. I guess, but even still, there's no way that a state as rich as Texas should be experiencing this type of hardship, and a lot of it is negligence by the government. There's I don't remember the gentleman's name because this wasn't even supposed to be the topic. But I don't know if he's the governor, if he's the mayor, whoever. He resigned because he made a statement saying that people should know how to survive. People should know how to take care of themselves. And then they admitted that they turned off the power, and they've turned off electricity, and I'm assuming that they've turned off heat as well. Like, how do you do that in the middle of winter in a state that's not used to having this depth of winter? You know what I mean? Like, it's basically, it's a natural disaster. Like, you would treat it the same way that you would treat a hurricane. You would treat it the same way that you would treat a tornado, or, whatever comes off the Gulf Stream, the excessive rain, excessive drought, whatever the case may be. There are supposed to be provisions for these things. It just doesn't make any sense. Texas only takes care of the wealthy minority. This is very true. And as bad as it sounds to say, I hope they're suffering just as much as the communities that are not as financially well off. I do. Like, I hope that they're having the same type of crazy fucking hardship, because it just doesn't make any sense. But I understand that that's the way that it is. The rich are meant to be richer and the poor are meant to stay poor. And you know what I mean? That's the state of America. I don't know if I guess Canada's not as bad. Like, we definitively have a middle class. You know what I mean? We have the struggling poor, absolutely. But I feel like we do a better job of taking care of our citizens, our especially like the homeless community and the homeless population. Hi, Dawn, darling. they operate with fingers crossed mentality. That's just scary. That's really scary. Like I said, anybody that's been to Texas, like this, the snowstorm is so out of the norm for them. It's one of those occurrences. It's like one of those things that happens like once every 100 years, let's say. I don't know that it's that long or that far apart, but it's definitely a phenomenon. And this type of damage, it's like they went through the flooding and people are just still starting to get right. You know what I mean? People are still recovering in a sense, and people are still, you know, making their way back from the flooding, and now this shit happens. Could you imagine? Now you went through the flooding a number of years ago, you get back on your feet, your house is repaired, and everything is good, and you guys are settled, and everything is, you know, and then this shit happens, man. Oh man, most governments here will spend the money to help the populace. Okay. Anyhow, let's come off of that because that's not what we're here to talk about. Everyone who has joined on, people who have come and gone, you know, everyone who's come in and said hello that I didn't get to say hi to, thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. This is What Wednesdays. I am your host, Badass Jones. Unfortunately, my other page, my personal page that I, you know, like to flaunt a little bit on, I'm still banned. The page is still there, but I'm still banned. And daily I am sending an email to whatever ways I have access to Instagram. I'm trying to figure out how to do the actual appeal process through the site. But because I'm banned from my page, I'm unable to access certain things to talk to the powers that be. But I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna figure out a way. I don't know when they're going to let me out of Instagram jail, but I am here doing my thing on this page. And for everybody who was on that page, that came to this page to support, I appreciate you guys. Last week, I announced that I broke 10,000 plays on the podcast. And as a thank you to everyone, I was going to do a raffle of 2 downloadable boudoir calendars of moi. So I'm intending on making this a yearly thing. My photographer, my resident photographer, Dawn of a New Day Photos, did the shoot with me for the first calendar. Amazing, talented photographer. And we've already worked out the theme for the 2022 calendar, which will be shot later this year when the borders open up and they allow me to come to the People's America. Yeah. Right, Chocolate Mimi? Fuck the ban. I don't know why these people are bothering me. Listen to me. For the amount of breasts, for the amount of nipples, for the amount of pum-pum print, for the amount of piercings on pum-pum in panty print, for the amount of ass clapping, ass shaking, bent over, half naked, almost completely naked, shit that I see on Instagram, and the way that people talk and all the emojis that they use, they're bothering me. Yo. Last week, I got 2 warnings for sexual solicitation because I used the devil's face and the squirt emoji. Apparently, when I use those 2 things in combination, it's a violation of their community guidelines for sexual solicitation. Who fucking knew? Oh my gosh. It's a bot running IG and Facebook jails. They will shit on you. Wait until you see my next post. Oh boy. Don't cause trouble. Anyhow, so to thank everyone who has supported the podcast, who has listened, shared, liked, commented, gave me a rating, good or bad, offered suggestions, offered whatever. To everyone who has supported the podcast and supported me, I am forever appreciative, and I am forever grateful, and I am forever humbled by the amount of people that I don't know in real life and haven't met in real life as yet. I'm hopeful I'm meeting some of you. But I'm forever humbled by the number of people who support me and support what I do and support the podcast and check up on me and, you know, just send out positive vibes and positive energy. And I know we're all doing our shit. Everybody's in a hustle. Everybody's on a grind. But the fact that you guys actually take time out to listen to me and come hang out with me on live and listen to my rants and my foolishness and, you know, ask for my advice and my opinion and stuff like that. I don't have adequate words to express how much that means to me, other than to tell you that it means a great deal to me. And I know it's cliche to say that, like, I couldn't do this without you, but really and truly, like, without without an audience, without supporters, without, you know, people who just rock with you, you're not really doing anything. Do you know what I mean? So, for everybody that rocks with me, and even the people that don't fuck with me, even the people who have tried to sabotage me, one, suck your mother. Um, but even the people who have tried to sabotage me, bring me down, break me, people who fake rock with me, people who, like, you know, people who just do the negative shit, even those people I'm thankful to, because everything helps to build and shape your character, and everything helps to make you who you are. So thank you for that. Anyhow, so I'm going to draw the names for, so 2 separate names for 2 downloadable versions of the boudoir calendar, and then we're going to talk about celibacy and self-love. So I'm not going to look. Okay. So the first winner is _black_pearl13. What is this? Since day one. Thank you. Black_pearl_13 is the first winner of the calendar. I will message you. I'm going to put this to the side so I don't forget you. Whoops. Hopefully I don't draw another name. The same name, I mean. Okay, I'm not looking. And, whoops. I am a freight hustler. A freight hustler. Oh, that's cute. I'm a freight hustler. I_am_AFR, the number 8, and then the word hustler. So I am a freight hustler and Black Pearl 13. Congratulations. You have won a calendar, a downloadable version of the calendar. I will make sure that I DM you to let you know how you can claim your prize. So, I really wanted to discuss celibacy and self-love with everyone, particularly because we're in a pandemic, and I know that a number of people have been forced into celibacy because of circumstances, because of, you know, fear of catching the Rona. That's still a very real and healthy fear. And, you know, people just kind of taking a break with themselves. It's like, as bad as the pandemic is, because it's still going on, I'm not going to say was in the past tense, as bad as the pandemic is, it's really afforded a large percentage of people an opportunity to actually slow their lives down and take stock of and take inventory of their life to, you know, figure out where they're at, what they're doing, where they want to head, and what their next steps are in order to you know, get on that journey and heading in a direction that's better for them. And in that, a lot of people that I've talked to have decided that they're going to be celibate. You know, this is kind of just an opportunity to recharge, reset, get in touch with themselves, center themselves. What did Mr. Hollout said? I hate it. Hey, Lex. So some people who have been forced into celibacy have, you know, due to the pandemic, as Mr. Holloway said, they hate it. And then there are others who are embracing it and taking it as part of their growth and development. There was an article that I read on a woman who has been celibate for 15 years now. And so for her, going through the pandemic, where a lot of people are going crazy because they can't get to see their man, their woman, their side piece, their side ting, their, you know, the man that they were messing with that has to stay at home with his wife, or the woman that they were messing with that has to stay at home with their husband, or the woman that they were messing with that has to stay at home with their wife, or the man that they were messing with that has to stay at home with their husband. Yeah, that's not what I said. So the pandemic has created this bubble for people where they were left with few choices and far between choices of how to get pleasure without getting COVID, right? Because it's one of those things, like I've seen a meme where people are having sex and they have their masks on, and we know in real life, nobody's fucking with a mask on. Let me not say that. There are some people who might feel like it's safer, but real talk, nobody's doing that. She's so Miami. Okay, you're going on 3 years. Can you come go live with me for a few minutes if we can talk about your personal journey with celibacy, if you don't mind? Let me know. Because I have questions about it. There was some reading that I was doing in regards to celibacy. So there are two parts to celibacy. There's abstinence, which usually has a designated time frame, like somebody is abstaining until they get married, or they're abstaining until they've graduated, or they're abstaining until they take their communion, whatever the case may be. But there's usually an end date. Whereas with celibacy, there is an undeterminate amount of time attached to the celibacy, but with the same goal and purpose of grounding, of centering, of self-discovery. It's just a personal journey. But then there are levels to celibacy where it is, for some people, it is a complete, like nothing. No interaction with themselves, nothing penetrative. Even if they're engaging company with somebody else, there's no kissing, no cuddling, no hugging, no nothing. You hate masturbating, Mr. Holloway? How? What? Who says that? Masturbating is fabulous. Bless you, she's so Miami. so okay, but then there are others who are practicing celibacy, but they engage in masturbation, they engage in self-pleasure. And I've had this debate with people before where they're saying, well, if you're being celibate and you're not having sex, that means that you're not even supposed to have sex with yourself. And then others who have challenged that I've spoken to have said, well, no, if you're celibate and you're celibate, you can have sex with yourself because you're not touching somebody else, right? And then there are discussions about, okay, well, if you're having sex with yourself and you penetrate yourself, that's penetrative sex as opposed to it just being on the outside. Lex is more, I'm abstaining until marriage because I want sex again, period. I'm not going to full on priest celibacy. Okay? So, Lex, has practicing celibacy been difficult for you? Was it made easier by the pandemic? Was this something that you started practicing before the pandemic? Let me know. Excuse me. So, years ago, I swear I have a story for everything. Years ago, I practiced celibacy. I just gotten to a point where, I wanted a more meaningful relationship with someone, and I felt in order to do that, I just had to spend time not being sexual with anyone and just kind of spend time hanging out with myself. And if I needed intimacy, to practice time with my body. And I definitely can say that it's one of the reasons why I'm more physically in touch with myself, just in terms of my needs, my desires, intimately, mentally, emotionally, and all that kind of stuff, because I spent time with myself. I was celibate for almost 2 years, and then, crazy story, we're not going to get into it, but an old flame came back into my life, and yeah, let's just say celibacy was broken. But it definitely helped to give me a better understanding of my sexual desires and my sexual needs. I spent a lot of time reading and researching like tantric sex, different sexual practices, and even that overwhelming desire to masturbate minimized the more time I spent with myself, learning about myself and learning about different sexual practices, rather than just being in bed with somebody and fucking for the short-term pleasure or whatever, or for whatever, the connection was between us. It definitely was a good 2 years spent in learning more about myself. But it also helped me to learn to be more free with myself. Lex, I took a year off from dating in general and officially decided June of last year to abstain. It has been hard. I have to remind myself of what the long-term is, right? The long-term goal is, so I stay on track. Yes, I had to get out the shower. Oh, well, when you're all dried off and you're all ironed up and you're in some, clothes you don't necessarily have to wear clothes for our benefit. Just have to kind of angle your camera. If we can have a conversation about that. But, yeah, celibacy, it definitely, like I said, Celibacy is different things for different people. The overarching goal though is to not sexually engage with anybody and give yourself, you're committed to not sexually engaging with anyone just out of random purpose, but that there's a goal in mind in you abstaining. There's a goal in mind in, channeling your energy inwards. There's a goal in mind in, you know, getting more mentally focused. There's a goal in mind in getting more sexually focused. There's a goal in mind in getting more physically focused. And the goal tends to be, building a better you, getting in touch with you to be a better you for yourself, but also thinking about the types of energy that you attract to yourself and, with the sexual energy that you put out. We all have sexual energy. It's what we're born with. You know what I mean? I know they say some people use it for good and some people use it for evil. That's debatable. But how is your sexual energy channeling outward? Who are you attracting? What types of individuals are you attracting? And I know for a lot of women who they're sexualized, whether it's intentional or not, the energy that they give out it's very heavily laden with like a sexual energy. You attract all manners of people that you may not necessarily want to interact with. And so sometimes, like I said, for me, it was about a search to find a different part of myself and wanting to reconnect with a deeper part of myself. That was my journey in celibacy. But it was also one of those things of looking at the types of men that I was attracting, and the types of people that were trying to engage in relationships with me that were just about bullshit, but why, like on a deeper level, why was I attracting those types of people to me? So in the journey of celibacy, taking sex out of the equation, because I feel like this. Sex, to some degree or other, makes everybody a little bit batty. It makes us feel a little bit crazy. So for women, when the dick is really good, sometimes we can get out of control. Sometimes we can get a little bit out of hand. For men, dem chakras, good evening, Christian. What's up, honey? And for men, when they get a woman that treats them really good or they get some really good pussy, sometimes it twists up their brain and it messes up their head as well, right? But again, the sexual energy that you're putting out, you're looking at the types of individuals that you're attracting to you based on the sexual energy that you're putting out. When you take a journey of celibacy, as I said, for me, it was about looking at the types of people that I was attracting to me, why those people were attracted to me, and what it was about me and the sexual energy that I was putting out that was drawing these people to me. Hi, Juanita. Happy New Year. I haven't seen you in such a long time. I know we said Happy New Year to each other, but it's just nice to see you. So as I said, that journey for me was about 2 years. In the first little while, because I am a very sexual person, it was hard. It was tough. I'm not gonna lie. And there were times where I was like, okay, if you do like a little bit of this, then so it's like, okay, well, if I give head, I haven't fucked, so that's still being celibate. Or if I haven't, there are things that you try to convince yourself of, right? Or if I do anal, but it's not vaginal sex, then I'm still being celibate? No. Penetration in any way, shape, or form, whether it's your mouth, your ass, or your pussy, is sex, So I played that game with myself for the first little while in thinking that, well, I'm sucking dick, but I'm not fucking, so I'm still being celibate. You know what I mean? I played that game with myself for a little while until, somebody that I knew had... That's very much giving sex. It absolutely is. But somebody that I knew had a very hard conversation with me, and said, like, I thought you were practicing celibacy. I'm like, I am. We didn't fuck. And he's like, but you sucked my dick. I'm like, okay. And he's like, and I ate your pussy. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, that's sex. I'm like, it's not. And he's like AJ, listen to what you're saying. I'm like, but it's not. So this is the conversation I'm having with myself because I'm in utter denial and telling myself that, well, we didn't fuck, so it's not sex and I'm still celibate. And he's like, sex is sex. If we had just kissed and dry humped, no clothes had come off. You know what I mean? That's still kind of like crossing a line because you're fanning the fire. He's like, but my dick was in your mouth. Your pussy was in my mouth. Like, that's sex. It's oral sex. And I said, yeah, but like we didn't fuck. It wasn't penetration. He's like, you're splitting hairs. Like, anal sex, oral sex, and penetrative sex, it's sex and it's not celibacy. And like we argued, and I was trying to be wrong and strong. I will say it. And I really had to stop and reevaluate what I was doing and the excuses that I was making because I wasn't ready to actually walk that journey. And I looked at I had to take a hard look at myself and tell myself, like, you're trying to fool yourself. You're playing a game with yourself. It's sex, and by you saying, well, you're not fucking, you're not using your pussy, so it's not the same thing, bitch. It's still sex. You suck a dick, it's oral sex. He eats your pussy or eats your ass, it's oral sex. You have sex in your ass. If you have anal sex, it's still sex, right? So, I started my journey again. Some things are trial and error, and I know that they're, it's one of those things where, yeah, you accept what it is, you accept the fuck up, and you know that you need to do better, so you do better. So maybe it wasn't necessarily starting the journey all over again, but, taking a stop, having a hard look at myself, having the hard talk with myself, and recognizing that I was trying to, fool myself into thinking that, I could do this by ducking and dodging and getting around and looking for the loopholes. There are no loopholes in celibacy. There are no loopholes in celibacy, right? And so, he took it further for me by saying that if you're going to practice true celibacy, like, you can't even touch yourself. Yeah. So, as hard as it was to, give up oral sex, giving up sex entirely, like no toys, no masturbation, no midday rub out, no rub one out when you're frustrated, no, I can't take this anymore, I need to like settle my brain, let me rub, none of that. You're doing nothing. You're focusing your energies on something else. And I will say, in that almost 2 years before Donovan came along, and I decided to give up and break my celibacy with him, he had a very convincing argument. You know what? He had a very convincing body, let's say. Anyways, I'm struggling with the masturbation front. It's doable. It's doable, but it's tough. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like, especially when you're used to having sex, when you're, it would be one of those things where if you had never had sex and you kind of just decided to remain celibate until you found your person, and that was the person that you wanted to, spend the rest of your life with and make things work with, then yeah. But when you've had sex, when you're used to having sex, when you're used to having like great sex, good sex, mediocre sex, average sex, sex whenever you want to have sex because you're bored sex, let me come suck your dick and go home sex, come eat my pussy and you go home sex, when you're, you know what I mean, like when you're used to getting it whenever you want, and then making this decision to, you have a bigger purpose and a bigger goal and a bigger focus in mind, and you're looking at the aspects of self-love, like truly looking at the aspects of self-love and what you want for yourself and the better that you want for yourself, you cut everything off. You cut out all of that. You're not sucking dick, you're not eating pussy, you're not fucking, you're not doing anything, even with yourself. And that is probably the hardest hurdle to get over. But once you get over that hurdle, there are days where it's tough, but it's not nearly as bad. But until you get over that hurdle, yeah. It can definitely be difficult, But for people who are on a journey of self-love, people who are on a journey of self-discovery, people who are on a journey of, bettering themselves, mentally, emotionally, physically, sexually, psychologically, physiologically, spiritually, and in whatever other ways. Taking sex out of the equation and spending time with yourself, even if, you know, the intimate moments that you have are self-exploration in terms of physically exploring your body, spending time with yourself, being celibate, and that journey of self-love, it's like an awakening in your soul. The things that you discover about yourself, physically, the things that you discover about your own desires, the things that you discover about desire on a whole, and on a broader scope, you know, not just the sexual desire, but what do you desire in a partner? You know, what desires do you have to give to your partner that are not of a sexual nature? You know, a lot of times, I say, you know, a lot of times when we get into new relationships, we're so preoccupied with the sex and with the physicality and with the physicalness, you know, that it takes us a while before we get to the point where we stop and say, okay, now let me look at all the other pieces. And that's usually when the rose-colored glasses tend to come off and the bubble of euphoria is popped. And now you're seeing things as they really are. And because your judgment was so clouded by sex and by intimacy, and now you're actually seeing the person for who they are, that's when shit starts to hit the fan. But it also teaches you stuff about yourself, like why did you not have enough self-control to say, okay, you know what, let me kind of like slow things down and take my time to get to know this person, not just on a physical scale. Because again, we are all sexual creatures, we all have sexual energy, and then there's this overwhelming desire and this overwhelming need to physically and intimately connect with people. And it stops so much. And I'm by no means saying that, you know, people shouldn't fuck and everybody should be celibate. That's not even my message in any way, shape, or form. I'm simply saying that when you're celibate, if you've practiced a period of celibacy, it affords you a certain type of clarity that you don't always have otherwise. It gives you a different type of focus. And even after you've broken your celibacy, you remain a lot clearer on what your needs are, what your desires are. And just speaking purely from an intimate standpoint, you know, it shapes and shifts the way that you think about intimacy and about pleasure and about your needs and about also what you're willing to give to the other person in terms of taking care of their needs, and then the balance of give and take intimately between you and another person. It also teaches you that, you know, intimacy doesn't always require physicality. You can be intimate with a person, intensely intimate with a person, without ever touching them, and still have that same sexual euphoric feeling. So, simply intimate bliss. She's so Miami. It's fucking beautiful. I agree. You know, like I said, for me, the point at which I decided to break my celibacy after 2 years, after almost 2 years, it was like a month shy of 2 years. I was ready. So, and as much as I say, like, you know, Donovan kind of came back on the scene and I was wowed, it really and truly wasn't about his physical self. He's like, although he's absolutely beautiful, it was more about the conversations that we had, and those intimate discussions that we had, not necessarily about intimacy and sex, but about, you know, my mind, my interests, you know, my career, my business, my family, my children, my desires, what I wanted to do with the future. And so in building this bond, and him respecting the fact that I was celibate and never pushing the envelope and never pushing the conversations, and never even trying to remotely steer the conversation in a sexual way, you know, it gave me an opportunity to see a different side of him that wasn't sexual, but so sexy. You know, because what he was tapped into was my mind and my energy, like my spiritual energy, not my sexual energy. I'm always going to be my sexual self. It's just the way that I look. It's what I put out. It's how I am. But for somebody to see beyond that and not even be concerned with that because they know that that's there, they know that that's a given. But for somebody to look beyond, you know, your fat ass and your breasts and your lips and your face and how beautiful you are and da 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 da, like they acknowledge all of that. But for them to look beyond that, to want to see intimately into you and know about your desires and talk to you about your desires and what your goals are, and for them to tap into your spiritual energy intimately, that's so fucking sexy. And that to me, more than anything, was what made me want to break my celibacy with him in particular. Mr. Noir Haven. Oh, dun, dun, dun. I think I'm supposed. Sammy, I sent you a request. I don't know if you sent a request. I think I had to send you one. Hopefully, you'll accept the request. I don't know if you're all out of the shower. Oh my goodness me. Um, waiting. Outside of that, I hope that everyone is well. There she is.
Here I am.
Hi.
Hey, how are
How are
you?
you?
I'm good. Mhm.
Thanks for joining me.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. So can we your journey?
Ah,
When,
it,
when did you start and what made you decide that you wanted to be celibate?
I was forced into celibacy. I was in a relationship and wasn't getting any. And after a year, I was like, well, hell, let's let's not do this. Then we broke up last year, actually. We finally ended it last year. And last year marked 2 years, now going on three. So I was forced into it in the beginning.
You said you were forced into it?
Yeah, yeah. Forced. I wasn't getting any.
So, did you have conversations with your person about what was going on and what you needed?
I it no, it was one of those things where you knew it was coming to an end, so let's go ahead and just end this. Um, I knew I didn't want anyone else to touch me or to have me, so cheating wasn't an option.
Yes.
And so yeah, it was having you get those conversations like I want some. Well, you ain't gave me none in 2 weeks. I ain't had none since last week. Like when we gonna do this? So once that started happening a little bit too much, fuck it. I'm not gonna keep asking.
Stop asking.
Yeah. So once
So, how, like I can assume, but I don't want to. Um, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being like agonizing and one being like how difficult was it for you to process that you had abstinence forced on you or celibacy forced on you while you were in an intimate relationship with someone?
in the beginning, it was probably like at a 9. It was at a 9, and once I got to the point where I knew I didn't want anyone else to touch me, I kind of not got used to it, but started exploring it more,
Mm.
and just been happy since. Um, I've been happy.
Did they ever try to engage with you after you had made the decision? So, like, even though you were forced into celibacy, once you had embraced it and said, okay, I'm going to do this, did they ever come to you at that point and say, like,
Oh
can we?
no, at that point it was okay. Well, let's just split up. Like, okay, he moved out, so that way I can get it every day.
Right.
And so once those steps started to take place, it was the reality. Okay, well, we ain't doing this no more. So might as well you go ahead and go. And once the cravings stopped, I knew it was it. I knew
Yeah.
that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the hardest part to come to terms with, because it's like you see them and you're like there's nothing. Like,
Yeah.
whereas
Yeah.
before when you see them, it's like, come on, let's do this. Like, what's
Yeah.
going on?
5 times a day, 4 times a
Right.
day, lunch
Right.
break, after work, before work. Yeah.
Did you ever find out? I mean, and please by no means like disclose, but for yourself, did you ever find out how you got to that point with one another?
It was, he would say my attitude, and I would say his nonchalantness.
Okay.
So it was like, how some men are, oh, your attitude, I don't want to give you
Right.
that.
And
Do
so
you
they
know
want to
why I
punish
have
you
an attitude? Like, did you stop and ask me
because
why
you're
I have
not
an
giving me any.
attitude? and that was like one of the things because he knew, like, we have sex 5 times a day. You knew from the beginning, like, sex was important.
Yeah.
So it became where he was one of the he's one of the guys that he studies women, whatever woman he's with, he study him. And then he uses that to manipulate the situation. So he knew that, okay, well, she feeling like this, or always she cook and she wants some tonight. Like little stuff
Right.
like that. So once he knew that he could control the situation, that's where things started going down.
Mm.
So yeah, that's how it started. Now it's like I say, it's for me been nothing but happiness. Nothing but
And
happiness.
when did you recognize, like when did you have that aha moment? Like when did you say to yourself, you know what, this is really good and this is a really good thing for me.
It was
Like it's no
actually
longer painful.
during quarantine. Of course, during the whole healing process, the whole um self love thing. It was during quarantine, and then I tried to. There was this guy that actually likes me, and we kind of not say hooked up, but we met face to face. Like we hooked up outside of work, and he went to touch me, and it was like, ugh. So I knew then. I was like, maybe being with men ain't for me. Like, let me just back off of it. Then we met up again, and he went to touch me, and I threw up.
Sorry, hold on. Beg your moment, please, madam. Beg your moment.
So,
Did you say
we,
you threw up?
yes, yes. So that's kind of like for me was a telltale sign like you need to continue healing. You need
Yeah.
not to let a man touch you. And once that happened, it got a little clear. Okay, and then I started to realize going back of all the years that I've had sex and how much sex I've had with who I had it with,
Hmm.
and realizing that every time that I've had sex, I have never been satisfied.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. No,
Yes. So that took like that realization, like, well, you don't need these men touching you because they don't satisfy you.
right.
So that kind of like that happened maybe summertime last year, and that pushed me into celibacy. Like, okay, just don't even don't even think about it. Don't worry about it. And then I knew it was serious when I stopped masturbating.
When you stopped masturbating.
Yeah, when I stopped masturbating, I knew it
Okay,
was
so
serious.
what prompted the choice to stop masturbating? Because
It
prior to that, you think, okay, well, I'm not going to sleep with anybody, but I'll just take care of my needs myself. What brought you to the decision that you just needed to not do anything at all?
when you get to the point where like you were for me, I knew I wanted to. I knew I wanted to touch myself, but when it came to it, it never happened.
Mm.
When no matter how many baths I take, no matter if I lay in the bed naked with a robe on, it was like I never got to that point.
That's
So,
really interesting. No,
so
I
I
think
could
that's
wake
absolutely
up
interesting.
in the morning and be like, "Ah, I want to masturbate later." Then when it comes to it, it never happened.
So, what actually stops you? Is it like you just lay there and you're like, you know what? I'm not really feeling the vibe to do this now?
Yeah, more so of that. Like if the vibe isn't there, because I mean, I can have candles going, I can have Silk playing in the background, Jodeci playing in the background. I could be ready, but I don't know if it's a conscious thing where like once it's time to do it, how like it's dry, it ain't gonna it ain't gonna
Yes.
get wet for you. So it's kind of almost like that.
See, okay. A couple of months ago, I went through is a much shorter period. A couple of months ago, for almost like a month and a half to 2 months, I couldn't like that same desire that you're talking about when you say to yourself, you know what, I'm gonna masturbate later. And then when I go to do it, as I'm starting, it's kind of like I don't really want to do this. or I do it and I get all the way through it and then nothing happens. Like there's no orgasm, there's no like there's no finish. And I kept telling myself that my pum pum was broken or something was wrong. But sorry, and listening to what you're saying, it makes sense that sometimes you just get to the point where you know what, just chill. You don't necessarily like you don't have to do anything to feel um like you're complete because it's almost like I was saying to myself like let me like keep doing this to make sure that she's working and to make sure that she's functional and she's okay and all this kind of stuff, but there's really it's like proving a point to
Yeah.
myself, but you don't have to prove a point to yourself.
Yeah, I think it's kind of so the same thing here. Like, well, let me see if it still works. Let me see if I still got it. And a lot of times, well, with me, when it comes to masturbating, I don't have to use toys or touch myself, and I can get off. So, and I
Mhm.
think that's probably why so, because it's all a mind thing for me.
Yes.
And if it's not like if there's no concentration, she ain't gonna get wet. If there's no so if it's not up there, then there's no performance. So and I guess that's what it is because eh, I don't usually touch myself to get off. So knowing that it's like, well, once it's time to do it, it doesn't the act doesn't
You're
happen.
just not there.
So
Have you
yeah.
given yourself an end date to your celibacy? Do you have an end goal or there's
No, honestly, I don't have a desire for another human being to touch me. I really don't. Um,
really?
yeah. After throwing up on that man, I felt like my ancestors were saying something like, "Girl, leave these people alone." Don't. I don't have that desire. I guess because I feel like if I lay down with a man, I'm not gonna be satisfied, and that has been all the years that I've had sex. There's really no satisfaction. Like every time, it just
I
seems
see.
like when I get up, they are pleased, they are happy, and I'm just like, oh, on to the next or something else. So yeah, I really don't have a need for someone to touch me.
So could you be in a relationship with someone who was also practicing celibacy, but having a full relationship with someone without intimacy?
I think I can. Since I went that last year, the first year of celibacy was like I was in a relationship without sex.
Right.
So now, I feel like I can. Like you don't have to touch me. I don't won't touch you, but if we're in a partnership or something like that, then
Mhm.
yeah, I think I can. I can handle that.
So would you consider yourself to be asexual at this point?
Uh
Like, do you
no,
have sexual desire?
I don't. Honestly, I
Okay.
don't. Yeah, I, I don't. If that comes back, then maybe I'll consider it. But right now, I have no desire for for anything like that. No.
Okay. So if we weren't okay, well, no, because you said this happened prior to the pandemic.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the question anyway. Do you think if we weren't in a pandemic and you had more access to different people, that your choice would be different?
No. No,
No.
I don't think it'll be different. I honestly hope that it would remain the same without the pandemic. Um, I mean, a lot of people, honestly, I heard what you say. A lot of people are scared, but a lot of people I know not scared of no pandemic. They don't give a shit. They still, they still out there
They
getting it
still
and
want to
doing
get
it.
it. Right.
I think it'll be probably the same with or without the pandemic. Like right now, it's more so of a journey to learn myself, to um to just like you say, learn other ways of being intimate with myself other than having to
Yeah.
touch myself, having to have somebody else touch me, things of that nature.
Okay. We have a question. Is it that you're not getting the proper touch? Humbled King asked a question. Is it that you're not getting the proper touch?
No, I when I was with my ex, we were together for 5 years, and in that 5 years, I had not been with anyone. He was the only man that I desired, the only man that I wanted to touch me, the only man that would
He
would
did it for
benefit
you.
from touching me. Yeah.
Right.
So even now, like now, he can't touch me, and nobody else can. So for the last, like, he's the only person within the last, because before him, I had gone a year without sex. So within the last 6, 7 years, he's the only person really that I've been with. So just the proper touch, I don't know. The guy I threw up on, he was hugging me, and I love hugs, but it was just
I'm
that is.
honestly sorry. I just can't get over that. Like you threw up on a
I'm
man.
sorry.
No, no, that's awesome. Like no, you know why I say that? Like all jokes aside, because sometimes they don't hear no and they think, okay, well maybe she's just shy or she's just timid. Bruh, she throws up on you, she's definitely not interested. That is your cue to pack up your belongings and go on about your business and don't come back.
With this guy, because he's older than me, he's like in his 50s, and I just think he's like so sexy, like he's sexy to me. And I told him, like, I'm attracted to you. I'm the reason why we even got to that point. I'm like, I'm
Right.
attracted to you, like, I like you. But when it came
Disrespectfully.
time to just being intimate, and as soon as he touched me, it was like, yeah, like we didn't kiss, there we had clothes on, like he just hugged me, and that was
And
it.
you sorry. So okay, well that was gonna bring me to my next question. So what about like kissing and hugging? But you answered that question.
And
So
I love kissing and hugging. I love to be touched. Like, I am the person to where intimacy without penetration is the best for me. Like I said,
right.
I can get off without penetration. I can get off without touching myself. So intimacy, or I guess foreplay or whatever, like, that's, to me, that's the best. Like, I love to kiss, I love to touch, I love all of that. So for him just to hug me and me to have that reaction, and I'm attracted to him, yeah, I knew it's time to give it up.
Yeah,
Time to step
that.
away and reevaluate.
So what did you say to him? What did he say?
He was shocked. His because he's older. He was more concerned. He thought like I had a stomach ache or something like that, and
Okay.
I couldn't explain it. I was like, yeah, I don't feel well. And he was just concerned about whether or not I was okay, if I was good. That's it. I apologize because it wasn't his car,
Yeah.
but it,
So did you have to have the conversation with him that you couldn't go further in
no, I we
exploring
still
something
haven't.
with him?
No, we still haven't had that conversation. Um, I haven't seen him since. I no, yeah. I mean, we still communicate, but as far as seeing each other, I haven't seen him since. Um, I don't even discuss it. Don't talk about it. Out of sight, out of mind.
Okay, so you don't have intimate desires to be with anyone. You don't have desires for anyone to touch you, or to be involved with anyone that way. Um, do you still feel sexual attraction?
I do.
You do.
I do. I do. It's I mean I can I'm yeah, I do. It's just when it comes to it, it's like, I guess it's like that forbidden thing. Like, no, you can't have that. It's kind of,
Right.
like it's not even a second thought to me. It's like, oh well, it's almost like window shopping. Oh yeah, that looks good, but I know I can't
Right.
afford
Right.
it.
Okay.
And for me, it's
Okay.
like, well, your spirit can't afford it because you don't want to throw up on somebody else again. Like, you don't
I
want.
like that. Your spirit can't afford it. Okay,
Yeah.
wait. So Instagram is going to time us out in about 10 seconds. Do you want to come back and talk to me?
Okay.
Okay. I'll message you. I'm going to post this